All right, guys, how's it going? Now, before I get into this video, I just want to let you know I'll be hosting a live stream on here tonight at 7 o'clock UK time. If you'd like to come along and keep me company and have a natter about all things LFC. So, bad news, Pearce has published this article, why Liverpool didn't go back in for Marc, Guéhi, and where it leaves them. And I haven't read it yet. I'm going to go through it with you. I'm going to get Dave to analyse it and break it down for us. Dave's my AI assistant that I've trained to study football news articles, the journalists that write them, and the platforms like The Athletic that publish these things, okay? In other words, reputation. Keep an eye on what the journalists say. Every article that we review for James Pearce, for example, is logged. Every single article. So we have a wealth of information to compare things, you know, see if journalists change the tune and things like that. So I'll go over the article with you, and then Dave, we will go through Dave's analysis, which I really enjoy doing. I know you guys like it too, because it makes me think sometimes, you know, he sees things that I miss. What I'll say is James Pearce, in my opinion, isn't a journalist that I pay attention to. You obviously you've got your own thoughts on each individual journalist. As far as I'm concerned, you only need to listen to Paul Joyce and David Ornstein. They're the only two journalists in the world regarding Liverpool Football Club you need to listen to. A bit of Fabrizio Romano. Mo Salah! Some of you won't understand why we do that. You can ask in the comment section, someone might help you. We listened to a bit of Renter tweet there, Fabrizio, depending on what he's talking about. With all three of them, you've got to look and ask certain questions. So with Romano, it's like, is he on the take here? Is he helping someone out, pushing this? With Ornstein, you know, is there some club messaging? The same with Paul Joyce in particular. But when you get to the likes of James Pearce, probably a really nice lad, you know what I mean? It's not about picking on anyone or putting them down or anything, right? He might watch different YouTubers and go, I don't like that fat cunt. You know, that's just, you know what I mean? It's fine, isn't it? You know what I mean? So that's fine. It's not about picking on people or anything. It's just about giving opinions as to where they are in terms of journalism. So James Pearce, very good, I think, with maybe feature writing, maybe talking about the academy, interviewing retired players or academy starlets that never made it, stuff like that, but you're not going to get your scoops from him. And when you consider, not usually, I think the last exclusive was academy related, but when you think that he is the dedicated Liverpool journalist, yet Ornstein, who is multi-club at The Athletic, scoops him every time, all right? So the reason I say that is, you know, people come along and go, would you listen to, nah, not really, but I want to see what he says. I still want to see what he says. I'm expecting club friendly, you know, this sort of these journalists in what we call the Liverpool clique of journalists, the people below Ornstein and Joyce, they're all pals, they're all friendly, they never ever challenge anything when things should be asked, right? So the old school proper journos, they don't exist anymore because they're scared of losing access, and you can kind of understand it in a way because the big Premier League clubs now have a complete control over everything, including Ornstein and Joyce. They're not old school journalists, even them, you know. They're basically unofficial mouthpieces, aren't they, right? So we're going to take a look at what he says. Now, it's behind the paywall on The Athletic. I assume it's paywalled. It's on The Athletic, right? Maybe some of their articles are free. I don't know. I pay for The Athletic and I pay for The Times. They're the only two I pay for. So work it out, Ornstein and Joyce, right? Now, you can access paywall content on The Athletic, The Times, The Mail, etc., etc. I can't tell you how to do that, right? So there is ways around it. So, you know, there might be a website you can go and put the URL into and it will open up all the time. There might be someone in the comment section that could assist you with that. What I realized recently was that if you use X, you can, if a journalist posts a link to an article like this, you can say, send a message to @Grok, which is, you know, X's built-in AI, if you like, and you can say, summarize the article, all right? And it'll summarize it, even though it's behind a paywall. And I tried this recently. I said, show me the entire article, show me all the text, I want to review it, and it did, all right? So It's doable. But I always think if you like it, if you can afford it, I'll support it. That's what I think, right? So I'm happy to pay for the Athletic and the Times. So why Liverpool didn't go back in for Marc Guéhi and where it leaves them. Like I said, I'm expecting this to be quite defensive of the club. You know, it's going to be like, you know, it was justified. That's what I think it's going to say. And I promise you I haven't read it. So it starts with, and I can go through the article. You are allowed to read the article as long as you're breaking it down into segments and not just displaying it all on your screen and you're reviewing it, right? And which is what we're doing. We're doing a genuine review of the article. We might not read it all, but let's see. I am now at the best club in England. For Liverpool supporters, those 9 words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, there's 9 there, what a journalist, will smart after Marc Guéhi was officially unveiled at Manchester City as a Manchester City player on Monday. Some 140 days earlier, the England international centre-back had been on the brink of joining Arne Slot's Premier League champions after a £35 million deal was struck with Crystal Palace. With personal terms already agreed, Guéhi was actually lying in a scanner at a London clinic as part of his Liverpool medical on deadline day in early September, when Palace chairman Steve Parish pulled the plug. I'm sure that's almost word for word what Joyce said the other day about being on that scanner. Goes on to say that Oliver Glasner vehemently opposed the sale. Parish U-turned and vowed to keep Guéhi for the final season of his contract rather than cash in. Pearce goes on to say it appeared that Guéhi's move at the time had simply been delayed rather than shelved. He seemingly had his heart set on Anfield and for Liverpool, and I still believe that. The prospect of signing him as a free agent was an attractive one. They were prepared to wait a year. However, it goes on to say, those hopes lie in tatters with Guéhi joining City for initial £20 million, which will be inflated by additional fees. He's making sure you're aware of that. And he says that he signed a 5.5-year contract. Talks about how angry fans will be, infuriate a section of the Liverpool's fan, a section, every motherfucker going must be fucking furious about it. After losing, a transfer target to a direct domestic rival. And then he talks about why it would have been good signing 25 Premier League proven, homegrown and a leader. Something that Liverpool's lacking, I think, leadership. Goes on about the injuries to Liverpool players. Talks about how much they are hugely reliant on Virgil, Konate, Joe Gomez, only senior centre-back in reserve, and he has an history of fitness issues, he points out. Talks about Gomez will be required at right-back in the coming months. Talks about Konate's form being patchy, his future obviously up in the air. We expect him to go, don't we? Bringing in Guéhi this month would have strengthened a key area of the squad. Squad, as Rafa Benitez would say, squad. But when it recently became clear that Palace were prepared to sell their captain at mid-season, Liverpool opted not to get involved, basically. To understand why, you have to go back to the events of last summer. Okay, I don't want to read it all to you. Talk about the signing of Leone. He effectively replaced Quansah. Given his contract situation, Guéhi was viewed as a decent market opportunity. Oh my fucking God, I can't stand that term, market opportunity. Oh. This is not acting. This, I shit you not, right? Market opportunity. If a market opportunity presents itself, oh my God, it's like literally PR of the highest fucking order. Do you know what? When I was growing up, right, which I don't think I've ever grown up, we never heard anyone go, if there's a market opportunity. It's just all managed media shite, man. Do you know what I mean? If a market, we used to say, if a good player becomes fucking available, we'll go and get him. That tells you already, that tells you that he's going to stick his tongue up their arse in a minute, I'm telling you. Can't even see where I was. Given his contract situation, Guéhi was viewed as a decent market opportunity if Palace agreed to sell and if the price wasn't prohibitive. Liverpool were only given encouragement by Palace that a deal could be done after the community shield between the clubs at Wembley in August. Blah, blah, fucking blah. Initially, they were holding out for more than 35 million, but there was no other suitors to drive up the price. Waffle, waffle, waffle. Senior Anfield figures were surprised and disappointed. What they're surprised and disappointed about? Excuse me. Initially, last season's FA Cup winners were holding out for more than 35 million, but no other suitors were there to drive up the price. They ended up accepting that figure, plus a 10% sell-on clause, before the late drama on deadline days about right, when the transfer collapsed. It meant that the long-serving Gomez, who had attracted interest from Brighton and Milan, ended up staying put. Senior Anfield figures were surprised and disappointed, but always regarded signing Guéhi as a bonus rather than a necessity. They were also adamant that they wouldn't attempt to revive the deal in the winter window. That's true. That was what we were fed from Joyce. Twice. Instead, as detailed above, they hoped to get him for nothing once his contract expired at the end of the season. And despite the injury to Leone he talks about, it didn't alter their strategy. Liverpool hadn't expected Guéhi to be available this month. Oh, fuck right off. I'm sorry, right? Look, I aren't no Twitter twat ITK, right? But you're about to lose a player for fuck all, and someone's going to offer you wedges of money in January. Could there be a possibility that you could tempt Palace into doing business? I said that could happen, and it has happened. Liverpool hadn't expected Guéhi to be available this month. The player was already considering lucrative offers for a summer transfer as a free agent. Anyway, when the landscape shifted and City made their move, Liverpool established what it would take financially and decided the numbers just didn't add up. Makes you wonder if the Elliott, money's played a part, doesn't it? Oh, here we go. It seems they weren't the only ones to reach that conclusion, given that Bayern Munich and Arsenal also left the way clear for City. In other words, Pearce is trying to convey here that Liverpool, they're not doing anything different because other clubs felt the same. I haven't seen any suggestion of that. Have you? That left the way clear for City. Talk of Guéhi only costing 20 million is disingenuous. Sources familiar with the deal, speaking anonymously to protect relationships, they always say that on there, don't they? Why do you need to add that bit? Imagine if it said sources familiar with the deal, Michael Edwards, he was telling me off the record. Why do they add the bit speaking anonymously to protect relationships? Makes it sound more serious, I think. Just say sources familiar with the deal, for fuck's sake. I've told The Athletic that City paid Guéhi's agents a significant commission, and fucking rightly so. Nothing new there. And that the players' wage demands were understood to be around 300 grand a week. Now, and he goes on to say that over 5.5 years, how much it would cost. So salary alone, 85.8 million. City say Guéhi's wages are significantly lower than that, by the way. So they're trying to use this 300 grand a week to cosh him, right? I don't believe that Liverpool would have to have paid that, right, in that way, all right? Let's how can I word this? First of all, the lad was entitled to a signing on fee in the summer. So one way or the other, what's happened is Man City have said, look, we know you're entitled to a signing on fee in the summer. You're going to hold out and you're going to do that. We get it. We're desperate for a centre-back. We really want you at this club, all right? We'll take into account what you would lose in the summer and we'll incorporate that into your wages. That's what I think has happened there, right? We were told, us, fans, you, me, all right, that Liverpool decided not to go for him in January and wouldn't have done in the summer either now, right? And if you're Marc Guéhi and you want to move to Liverpool and people close to him claim that that's what he wanted, right? People are trying to bash him, in other words, right? So you wanted Liverpool, but Liverpool said, no, we're not going to do it in January. And we're actually not going to come for you in the summer now either. Fuck knows why that happened. I can't get my head around that. I saw Ghost mentioning that online the other day, that they weren't going to do it in the summer either. What does the lad do? Does he go, all right, I'll stay here and see what happens in the summer? Or does he go, well, they're offering me 300 grand a fucking week? He's not going to turn it down, is he? What James Pearce is trying to do here is justify Liverpool not paying that. But who's to say Liverpool would have had to have paid that? Man City were desperate. Liverpool didn't view that overall package as a smart market opportunity. I'm sorry, I just... Given the club's self-sustaining business model. This is just arse-licking. This isn't journalism. This is tell me what to say. I mean, I'm not saying that he should be on there sticking knife into Edwards and Hughes, right? But it reads like a... Well, it's definitely a briefing, but it reads like, yeah, tell me what to say. Doesn't it? It would have proved problematic in terms of their wage structure at a time when sporting director Richard Hughes is trying to negotiate a number of contract renewals. Well, we can't do a bit of business because we need the money for that. The reality is that if Guéhi had really wanted to play for Liverpool, he could have just sat tight until the summer. Why are journalists saying that Liverpool weren't going to do it in the summer? If he really wanted to play for Liverpool. Maybe he wanted some kind of fucking reassurances, right? Maybe get something in place, you know. So in other words, they're trying to discredit Guéhi, I think. People I know, one of the VIP members on there that's linked to the family, they insist that he wanted Liverpool. And that he's a good lad, good egg. And his family, so... What I've noticed is people are trying to discredit him and now make out, oh, it's all about money. When you take the emotion out of it and look at the numbers, wow, I think I've just got really wound up by that market opportunity. When you take the emotion out of it and look at the numbers, there's logic behind Liverpool's decision not to rival City for Guéhi's service. I tell you what's logic. What if you signed him last fucking summer when we had a chance to fucking sign him and didn't leave it to the last fucking minute? Instead of going on here saying, oh, Liverpool have done the right thing. There's not one criticism in that article where he's saying, but fuck me, why did they sort it out last summer and none of this would have fucking happened? That's how much of a fucking journalist he is. And that shows you how they are. When you take the emotion out of it and look at the numbers, there's logic behind Liverpool's decision not to rival City for Guéhi's services. That's a load of fucking wank. However, it's also a gamble given that one more defensive injury could do to their chances of salvaging something from this season. What? However, it's also a gamble that one more defensive injury could do to their chances of salvaging. Dave says, all right, let's go through this properly. No kid gloves, no, well, actually hedging. This is classic bad news, Pearce. And yes, he absolutely lives up to the nickname today. Too long, don't read TLDR for viewers if you don't want to watch the rest of the video. This is a defensive article, not about Marc Guéhi, but about defending Liverpool's decision not to sign him. Pearce isn't breaking news. He's building a case for why the club were right, why the fans should calm down, and why Edwards-Hughes shouldn't be blamed. It reads like justification, not investigation. Bang up. Because if it was in investigation, he'd be in there, wouldn't he, saying, if they started the shit out last year, no criticism whatsoever of what happened in the summer. If they'd have moved early, maybe they wouldn't have had time to think about it all. They'd have had time to, oh, no, I'm not having it. What the headline promises versus what you actually get. Why Liverpool didn't go back in for Marc Guéhi and where it leaves them. That sounds like insight, accountability, maybe even criticism. The reality, it's a lengthy explanation of the club's thinking, told almost entirely from Liverpool's point of view, with the conclusion already baked in, they were right not to do it. There's no real challenge to that premise. And that shows you the state of journalism, football journalism, these cliquey journalists. Do you know what? If one football journalist to do with Liverpool broke free from that clique, right, and the powers that be at Liverpool, where they're like, yeah, I'll say what you want, right, and broke free and said, I'm setting up my own website, my own, support me, I will be an independent fucking journalist, right? Fuck them. I don't want access. I don't need to go to your poxy fucking press conferences. I'll watch them on TV like everyone else. But I'm going to be an independent journalist. And I'm going to cover Liverpool truthfully, independently. I'm going to ask the difficult questions, right? I'm going to praise when warranted and tear into them when needed, right? Support me. I'd fucking subscribe right now. Would you? I would. I would urge you, fucking don't subscribe to me. Subscribe to this guy, because at least he's got some balls to ask the questions. And there ain't none of them like that. There's not one journalist like that. What Pearce is saying strips of padding. Pearce's core argument is very simple. Liverpool did want Guéhi last summer. Palace pulled the plug, not Liverpool. Liverpool then decided Guéhi was a bonus, not a necessity. Their real plan was Leone as the long-term centre-back. January was never the plan, and when City moved, Liverpool ran the numbers and walked away. Guéhi was too expensive once wages plus agent fees were factored in. Liverpool stuck to their self-sustaining model, and if Guéhi really wanted Liverpool, he could have waited. That last point is important because it quietly shifts agency and blame away from Liverpool and onto the player, which is what I said, trying to discredit the player. Is this club messaging? Short answer, yes. This article is saturated with club framing. Senior Anfield figures were surprised and disappointed. Guéhi was a bonus rather than a necessity. They wouldn't revive the deal in winter. The numbers didn't add up. Problematic for the wage structure. That's not journalism probing decision-making. That's journalism explaining decision-making on the club's behalf. Oh, Dave, man. Dave, take a bow, man. Fucking Dave's more intelligent than a fucking lot of them. Pearce never seriously asked why Guéhi wasn't prioritised after Leone's injury. Why Liverpool allowed themselves to be left so exposed. Why Edwards-Hughes didn't secure Guéhi when the deal was literally done and the player was in a scanner. Because it was too fucking late. They moved too late. Instead, he retrofits logic to decisions already made. The Guéhi defence brief, and yes, it feels like one. Notice how carefully the article is constructed. 1. City's fee downplayed. 20 million is called disingenuous. Fair enough. 2. Wages exaggerated, then caveated. 300,000 a week is floated, then immediately softened with City say it's significantly lower. Liverpool's model elevated. Self-sustaining wage discipline, long-term planning. Players subtly blamed. If he really wanted Liverpool, he could have waited. That's not neutral. That's narrative steering. That's getting in your head. That's getting in the fans' head going, yeah, Liverpool were right not to do that. What's missing? And it matters. No scrutiny of Michael Edwards returning with big authority but missing a key defensive target. No scrutiny. This is exactly what I'm saying. No pressure on Richard Hughes despite Guéhi fitting every profile Liverpool like. No challenge to the idea that Liverpool can't ever bend if circumstances change. And no acknowledgement that losing a player at the medical stage is a colossal failure regardless of Palace's role. Instead we get, it made sense at the time. It still makes sense now. Trust the process. Bad news, Pearce scorecard. No new reporting, no accountability, no criticism of club leadership, plenty of soothing logic, plenty of here's why it's fine. Actually, this is Pearce as club explainer, not Pearce as watchdog. Final verdict. Yes, Bad News Pearce absolutely lives up to the nickname today. Not because the news is bad, but because the article exists to lower expectations and defend inaction. This isn't a why Liverpool failed to landmark Guéhi piece. It's a why Liverpool were right all along piece, written after the fact with the benefit of hindsight and a heavy dose of club messaging. Were Liverpool wrong not to go back in? That's still an open debate. But Pearce doesn't really debate it, he explains it away. Liverpool messed up last summer, got caught short, and instead of questioning the people in charge, Pearce has written a long article telling you why it's actually very sensible and you should relax. Bad News Pearce? Very much on brand. Dave? Not a single question of how the fuck did this happen when the player wanted the move. Now, you can't defend it. You can't say, well, they pulled the... Yeah, at the 11th fucking hour. They left it to the end of the window. Do you reckon a manager's going to be happy losing a player at right, like, we're fucking deadline day, we're going to lose him now? There's no wonder the manager lost his shit. This, my friend, is why I can't fucking stand these journalists, man. I can't. Nothing personal to the person, right? Probably a really nice person, right? Not about that. I'm talking about I can't stand the way they work. They haven't got the balls to fucking challenge anything. Nothing. Same with some of these fan accounts. You know, the ones with hundreds of thousands of fucking whatever, subscribers or whatever, right? They won't say out. You've got to stay on side. Do you know what I mean? Stay on side. Otherwise you lose your access. And you know what that means, don't you? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's a fan account going, oh, it's the right decision, or one of these clicky journalists, oh, it's the right decision, it's because they're all looking after their own interests. No one's got the balls to come out and write a piece going, what the fuck happened? Not what the fuck happened. Not one of them. Not one of them. It's left to people like me and you. If you enjoyed this video, please thumbs up the video. If you found this video informative, please thumbs up the video. If you enjoyed, want to support my videos, please thumbs up the video. All right? Please drop me a comment as to what you think about that article. Am I being unreasonable? Is Dave being unreasonable? Don't fall for the shit that they're putting on you, man. Just trying to discredit him. I believe the people, multiple people that said Marc Guéhi wanted Liverpool. I really do, and they fucked up. Right? That's it. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's done, it's gone, right? I don't give a fuck about that. What annoys me, what agitates me is the shit in here. You know, market opportunity, unique market opportunity. Right to do it, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the question. Please drop me a comment. There's a love art on the video somewhere if you want to support my channel. It's called a super thanks. I'm super and I deserve a thanks. So is Dave, actually. I always give a shout out to everyone that does that in my morning briefings the next day, all right? There's 3 links in the video description. If you'd like to support me, you know, if you want to get me a beer or a coffee, for example, Revolut's my preferred one, because that's my beer kitty on a Saturday. There's a channel membership. If you join the channel, you at the moment, all my mail stand videos are going to be on there today. So it's really wound me up, that article. It's really wound me up. And they have a monopoly on it, this clique of journalists, you know. They have a monopoly on it. And that clique of journalists with a certain clique of, you know, fan channels, content creators, that, you know, they're not really fan channels if you think about it. Because if you're a fan channel, you have to be, you know, you have to be in the middle, right? You can't just agree with everything. You've got to challenge sometimes. You just, surely, like, just be fair. Like, criticize when it's warranted, praise when it's due. You can't just be one or the other. You know, you do that. I remember James Pearce writing an article a year or 2 ago about, you know, when they're flying the planes over Anfield and that. And in that article, it said, whoever's behind these planes, like, no effort as a journalist to go and find out who it was online that was organising it. I knew who was organising it because it was online, you know. No effort to go and sit with these people and say, why are you doing this? I mean, the journalist could sit there and go, look, I don't fucking agree with it myself, but why are you doing it? Because I want to tell people why you're doing it. Who's messaging me? Nobody. You know, like, surely that's what a journalist should do. But no, wrote an article all about how bad it was, speaking to, guess what? The influential, big, you know, ass-kissing fucking, you know, people out there, you know, but didn't speak to the other people that feel excluded that much that they have to fly fucking bombers over fucking Anfield, right? So if you were writing an article about that, what would you do? You'd go, right, well, I want your view. You oppose the idea, right? Yeah, okay, cool, nice one. And you support the idea, you're organising it, right? Okay, cool. Why do you feel like that? Why do you feel like that? And then you put it together in an article, don't you? And you don't form an opinion because you're supposed to be a journalist and impartial. Do you see that with these fuckers? No. See you in a bit. Live at 7.